This is big news for the Rams. The Rams are getting a key player back from the injured reserve. Also, they bring back a former player, and they sign a tight end. We got the latest on the injury report. We're previewing the Panthers on Sunday. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, join the party. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Drop a like. Drop a comment if you want to support every single episode. And podcast listeners, write us a review. It will read on the show. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me DMAC. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade. 24/7 Sports, Bleach Report, SI, Dodgers Nation, now covering the Rams over at the LA Sports Report as well. Also to NFL Radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, out today, will be back on Monday, but we've got a jam-packed show. The Rams get some big positive injury news. They also make some acquisitions. A former Ram is set to return. They also signed a tight end, some roster stuff to get into. All that, but first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So one of the big reasons why this Rams team has leveled up, taken the next step, has appeared to be a much better team than last year's team is because of the emergence of Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback that they claimed off of waivers from the Commanders, that they developed into a cornerback that deserves Pro Bowl, maybe even All-Pro consideration if he continues this for the rest of the season. Kobe Durant getting turnovers, getting pick sixes, being a land shark. He's improved a lot. Darius Williams has had his moments as well, and it was all massive because their best cornerback was lost in week 2 when he broke his clavicle against the Tennessee Titans. And of course, I'm talking about Ahkello Witherspoon. Is he still the Rams' best cornerback? That remains to be seen. But what we know now, though, is that he is set to return. They opened up his 21-day window to return off the IR. And it's not only going to be a positive sign that he's ready to go, he could be on the field as soon as Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. In fact, that is the plan as of right now. Sean McVay, he told us this week, just yesterday, that he expects Ahkello to be able to play on Sunday against the Panthers, and that tells you that they're expecting to get him out there. In what capacity, we'll see. I think you look at this stretch of games, he would probably, I would say, rather be out there sooner than later. I would say he'd rather be out there against a Panthers team and try to kind of get his groove, get his rhythm back. And this is an incredible development. Think about it this way. The Rams just had the top 2 highest graded cornerbacks for PFF last week in week 12 against the Bucs. And now they're getting Ahkello Witherspoon back, who at one point was their best cornerback. And it keeps them deep. It allows them to have a rotation. I think what you'll see, Ahkello go to the boundary. You'll see Forbes go to the field corner. If you're wondering what that is, the field corner is kind of the side of the field that has the wider side of the field. It's the opposite of the boundary, and the position typically is assigned for a player that has better speed, better agility, and cover more ground, a skill that you definitely value when you're in man-to-man. But still, we see the zone they play, we see the type of defense that they play, that you're going to see the boundary with Ahkello being covered. So I think that this is something that you're going to love, because with Ahkello, his ceiling is so high that good Ahkello can really shut down some of the best receivers in the league. We saw that last year in the postseason. We saw the success he had against the Vikings, against the Eagles, against the Lions. We know that he has the ability to match up with that length, with that size, to make things difficult. But you also don't want to stifle the emergence of Emmanuel Forbes either. So I don't think there's any issue, any competition. Oh, I'm coming back to get my spot or anything like that. I think these guys are a group, and I go back to what Sean McVay said at the very beginning of the season. And a lot of people doubted him when he said this. A lot of people thought that he was just blowing smoke. But Sean McVay said that he feels like he has 4 starting cornerbacks in Forbes, in Witherspoon, in Williams, in Durant. And now that appears to be true. So, look, there's always going to be more injuries, more attrition. That's always a possibility as well. But the key is depth. Great teams have depth. Great teams have multiple players at positions that can get the job done. And you're getting someone back in Ahkello Witherspoon this week. Quentin Lake, thankfully, was not lost for the season with the elbow injury. He did go see Dr. Neil Elitrach. He's going to be back at some point in the playoffs. And when you're a Rams team that is hoping to have a deep run, that has everything in line to have a deep run, that tells you that you could get a Quentin Lake back for multiple games. So as long as the rest of this unit continues to stay healthy in the defensive line with Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and Byron Young and Poona Ford and, of course, Jared Verse, all those guys stay healthy and they keep getting better because they're young and you're still improving every single game, I think the sky's the limit. Remember my take at the beginning of the season? My bold prediction was you were going to get a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense. How about a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense? How about one of the best teams in the history of the NFL? We'll talk about that later. But some more housekeeping to take care of. Injury news on Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell is also open to returning. They opened up his window. We'll see what that means for him and how he plays into this offense. I think what you're going to see for Tutu Atwell is you're going to see the haters come out. Oh, Tutu ain't well. Oh, what is he doing? Oh, you could have got Creed Humphreys, all this stuff. Why'd you give him $10 million just to make one catch against the Colts and A.D. Mitchell slipped? No, he put a move on him, 1. And 2, I think you'll see him worked into that rotation with Jordan Whittington, with Mumfield, and hopefully he gets utilized to take the top off of a defense, to try to open lanes up for running backs, for his fellow teammates on the receiving end, for Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. The truth of the matter is when you have the kind of speed that Tutu Atwell has, even if you're not getting 10 plus targets a game and making 5 plus receptions, there is a way for you to help this football team because of your speed. Now, if you don't have speed and you're just out there as a possession receiver trying to make digs and trying to just move the chains, and you got guys like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, and the defense doesn't have to account for you, yeah, sure. There's not a lot that you're going to contribute to this offense that won't show up in the stat sheet on the box score, but Tutu Atwell certainly is a guy that can. And the way I look at it is this way. This is a team that has a lot of veterans, and this is a team, especially Devontae Adams. Hey, if Tutu, you can have him carry the load a little bit and just make some plays. Every play that he makes that Devontae Adams doesn't have to make to keep him fresh for the playoffs, to keep him healthy, to keep him ready to go, and keep him focused on being that red zone threat, I'm all for. So I don't think this is a bad thing at all. I don't think that Tutu Atwell is a bust. I mean, has he had the production that you would expect a guy drafted where he did have? The answer is no. Does Sean McVay continuously remind us that part of that is his responsibility? He does. But the truth is, with a team this good, sitting at 9-2, at the top of the NFC, the top of the NFL, really, you just want to get better and make sure that you have weapons at every side of the ball and make sure that every position you have depth. And as a day one Tutu truther, I've got your back. Don't worry, Tutu. You can still help this team. Why don't you get a ring for this organization? Tutu Fast, Tutu Furious can help this Rams team. But coming up next, the Rams bring back a former player. They add him to the roster. Also sign a tight end. And a stat that proves that the 2025 Rams could go down as an all-time great team. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. This episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Big shout out to every listeners out there. Yes, it was Thanksgiving. Today's Black Friday. I'm thankful for the Ramley out there. You guys are the engine of this show, the lifeblood of this show. You keep it rising, and you keep it the number one daily podcast for the Los Angeles Rams on the number one sports podcast network, the Locked On Rams Network. So big shout out to the Ramley. You know I love all you out there. Meet you at the games, whether it be the Rams games, the Dodgers games. I run into you guys occasionally, and it really means a lot to me and Travis. And if you're not an everyday listener, now's the time to join. That's where you watch or listen to every single episode of Locked On Rams, and then you won't miss a thing about your favorite football team. Okay, here in our second segment, the Rams made some roster moves. The Rams have brought back a former starting cornerback, and that is Derion Kendrick. Now, Kendrick played 10 games for the Seahawks this season. He had 2 interceptions. He recorded 7 tackles, one of them being for a loss. And the Rams, they bring him back into the fold, and that definitely is a plus. That's a bonus. Derion Kendrick, we know, he's aggressive. He has some deficiencies for sure, but this is a guy that knows the Rams system. He knows how to play, whether it be Raheem Morris's defense in the past or Chris Shula's now. And he was a guy they brought back early on, and then he just didn't stick. So I think for the trade to McCreary, we saw what happened there. Roger McCreary, who was a depth piece that was kind of added just because you wanted to add someone because you were losing Darius Williams with the shoulder injury. Well, the Rams put Roger McCreary on injury reserve and they re-signed Derion Kendrick. So that is the impetus for that move. And hey, here's a big... If you guys have time, I put together Roger McCreary's highlights as a Ram. All right, there we go. And welcome back. No, of course, I'm only joking. Look, he got injured, and look, the Rams made a move. It was a smart move to get some depth. But to bring Derion Kendrick back into the fold, I think it's a great move. I really do. I mean, this is someone that in 2022, he's a 6th-round pick. He was waived by the Rams, picked up by the Seahawks. Like I said, he played in 10 games, and he was waived again, signed by the Rams. Kendrick did have those 2 INTs, but he just couldn't really become that reliable, dependable player that they were looking for in the secondary. And Seattle head coach Mike McDonald, he said that the team wanted to get Kendrick on the practice squad, but now he's headed back to LA. So Kendrick said, hey, if I'm not going to play here, I'm going to go be back with the Rams. And I look at this as just a solid depth piece. I mean, hey, maybe he was a secret double agent in the Seattle system, and hopefully he gives the Rams some information, because we know there's a chance that these two teams could face each other at some point. I still think that the Seahawks are one of the top contenders for the Rams to deal with potentially. I mean, if they get a little better quarterback play out of Sam Darnold, I would take the Seahawks over the Lions from what we saw yesterday. It's interesting to see the Packers continue to climb The Cowboys are a surprise story. The Eagles, they play the Bears today. The Bears all of a sudden are putting together a streak. So I don't see that juggernaut that really terrifies me like we've seen in some years past. The Lions this time last year were really good. The Eagles, of course. I think the Rams can beat anyone in this league on their best day. And you couldn't always say that about even Rams teams that were headed to the playoffs in the past. But some other roster moves. So just to recap, they designated the return for Tutu Atwell. Ahkello Witherspoon is back. They placed Roger McCreary on the injured reserve. They claimed off of waivers cornerback Derion Kendrick. And then the other move they made was they signed tight end Nick Vannett to the roster. Now, why did they do that? Why did you bring in another tight end when you look at a pretty filled up tight end room? They added Nick Vannett to the 53-man roster, and this was in conjunction with placing cornerback Roger McCreary on the injured reserve. Now, it's an interesting situation just because you look at the tight end room now and you say, wow, they've got a lot of dudes. They've got depth. They've got Tyler Higbee. They've got Terrence Ferguson. They've got Davis Allen. They've got Colby Parkinson. But there's a couple of things to consider. One, they just placed veteran Tyler Higbee on the injured reserve. Two, they have been using 12 personnel and 13 personnel so much more this season. It's something that really has been pioneered, I think, and brought back. I mean, it's not like they invented 13 personnel, but they've kind of reintroduced it where you got one running back, you got three tight ends, you got one wide receiver. It's a heavy formation that is one there is no tells for a running play or a passing play, but I think the way the Rams have used it creatively, where sometimes you're in 13 personnel just to get Devontae Adams a one-on-one look, potentially as a receiver, and you give him that matchup, you know he's going to win it, especially the way he can create in short space, or you can run it down their throat, or you can find a tight end in the back of the end zone, whether it be a Davis Allen, whether it be a Colby Parkinson, whether it be a Tyler Higbee. It gives you options, and in their Week 12 win over the Bucs, we did not see the 13 personnel formation essentially at all. I mean, the Bucs kind of took it away, and Vannett is someone that gives them an opportunity to reintroduce that next week, whether it be this week against the Panthers or next week. You kind of feel like it's more of an option. I think they're going to go right into it, but you look at Vannett, he was drafted by the Seahawks in 2016. He's played all over the NFL, a journeyman playing for the Steelers, the Broncos, the Saints, the Giants, the Chargers, the Titans, and the Vikings. He had 0 catches in 4 games with the Minnesota Vikings this season. But I think with the Rams, you get depth, you get another option, you are featuring the tight end more, so that explains that. Another thing, too, from what I've been told, hit up some scouts that work for the Vikings, and what they told me was he's a great blocker, and that they look at the Rams roster, and you got some good blockers for sure, but right away he could be the best blocker, even better than Tyler Higbee right out of the gate. So if that's the case, he's on the field, you're opening up running lanes, and Higbee, I think he's been a good blocker. Has he regressed a little bit? I mean, I think our best pass-catching blocker in his prime at some of those spots was Cooper Kupp. I still believe that. But that's definitely a good thing to see, is that he's got a major strength. He's got a major strength, and it's certainly blocking. And we'll see sometimes the tight ends that you think are tells, like, oh, he's in the game, it's indication of a run. That's when Sean McVay will pull the rug on you and say, oh yeah, okay, well, let's find him in the back of the end zone. Let's find him right there on the flats for a first down. So I like the fact that the Rams are working on the margins with this roster. They've been doing it all season, and it's the mark of an elite franchise. It really is. It's the mark of a team that has had this level of success. I mean, you look at yesterday's games, the Chiefs, they appear to be falling off. Yes, you won a couple Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, but they're falling off a little bit. The Bills have trended in the wrong direction this season. The Ravens falling off a cliff potentially. I mean, losing to the Bengals yesterday. And yes, the Rams' last Super Bowl is 2021. That does feel like a little while ago. But, I mean, just look at what Lesney was able to do. It looked like he was going to have a full down to the studs rebuild at some point. Cooper Kupp aging, Aaron Donald retiring, Matthew Stafford having injuries to his spine and his back. All of a sudden, he just goes into his bag and he drafts so many great players that have developed into some of the best players at their position in the league. Oh, and he's made some great trades that have put them in a position to be able to replenish and restock the roster. And if they want to go after a quarterback, they can certainly do that. Of course, I'm talking about trading out of the first round with the Atlanta Falcons, where they're going for James Pierce, and Pierce has been a bust for them, and the Rams now have that number 11 pick and a pick down in the 30s. I'm sure the pick in the 30s hopefully is the last pick, and then hopefully you see the Falcons lose and that pick goes up. So credit to this Rams team. When we come back, I'm going to give you a stat that proves that the 2025 Rams could go down as one of the greatest teams of all time. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, here in our third segment, the Rams, through 11 games, 9-2, on top in the NFC, the number 6 scoring offense, the number 1 scoring defense, a 6-game winning streak. But when you look deeper, how good is this Rams team? Do the metrics say that they are one of the best in history through 11 weeks? Well, not only the Rams number 1 heading into week 13, they're number 10 in DVOA through 11 games. And since 1978, that's how good they have been. They're the 10th all-time team in DVOA through 11 games since 1978. Just to give you an idea, put that into context, 5 of the 9 teams ahead of the Rams won the Super Bowl that season. The 1998 Denver Broncos, they ranked 3rd. The 2007 New England Patriots, number 1. They lost in the Super Bowl. This team is sitting at a table with some of the best teams in NFL history up until this point of the season. And only one other team in history of the current DVOA era has finished number 1 on both offense and defense, and it was the 2001 Rams. And that team lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and of course that was terrible. I remember I was speaking to a former Ram, I can't say who it is, but he tells me that one thing he's still mad about is Ricky Prohl, who was talking into that NFL Films camera, and he goes into it and he says, today is the start of a dynasty. Today you're going to witness the start of a dynasty. And then Teddy Bruschi said later that, hey, Ricky Prohl was right. He was just talking about the wrong team, because of course that Patriots team would go on to start a dynasty. I mean, 6 Super Bowls and everything that Patriots team has won throughout their history is pretty remarkable. But still, this is a team that's all-time great. I mean, this is a team that they have the lowest game-to-game variance of any team in the league. They're a team that against Tampa Bay, an 80.8% DVOA. The Rams have only had one other game above 50%. Well, you had week 4 against the Colts where they won 27-20. The Rams have been above 20% every single game, including their 2 losses. They come out and they just dominate or win every game, and you just have not had that clunker. So, hey, that's massive. That's pretty solid company, where when you finish with the 1 seed, when you have elite metrics on defense and offense, usually that translates to getting to or winning the Super Bowl. And that's where the Rams are at. It'd be one thing if they had this record where it felt fluky, it felt like, oh, this team is just winning, but they're not for real. This team on the surface looks great, and when you look under the hood, they look even better. Okay, we just got some breaking news. This is from Jordan Schultz, who tweeted out just now The Seahawks are signing veteran running back Cam Akers to their active roster. Akers, still just 26, spent time with the Vikings this season and now joins 8-3 Seattle for running back depth. So Akers, the former Ram, he was recently cut by the Minnesota Vikings, and he's now with a Rams rival, the Seahawks. That's pretty interesting. Akers has faced the Rams twice since being traded there in 2023. He faced them with the Vikings in 2024 in the regular season. Didn't have a carry in that game, and then during the playoffs, he faced them again. He had 5 carries for 39 yards, just 12 offensive snaps. If he's still on the team, I mean, that would be a bad thing for the Seahawks if he's getting a lot of snaps, because that means something's wrong with Kenneth Walker III or Zach Charbonnet. But yeah, I mean, think about that. You had Cooper Kupp and Cam Akers on the Seahawks in a year where they're competing with the Rams in the division. So interesting stuff for Cam Akers. All right, so we got some other stuff to talk about too really quick. And yeah, I see here it's just kind of some more stuff about, we know that the Rams and the tight end. This is another thing about what Sean McVay said about signing that tight end, and it was availability. That was part of the thought process. With Bennett, it gives you a chance to be able to activate all your different personnels, whether that be 11, 12, 13, who knows, maybe 14 at some point, huh? No, never. Well, I wouldn't say never, but he was a guy that both Les and John McVay liked. I had some familiarity with him, and you're just kind of looking around the league. Feel good about some of the guys that we have on the practice squad, but with Higbee being out for some time right now, you do want to make sure that if you decide to go with a couple guys up, you're not going to just to be one injury away from losing a portion of your game plan if that's the way that you lean and the direction you want to go. So essentially what I just told you guys a few minutes ago, that was the reason why you went out there and you signed another tight end. I mean, joking about 14 personnel is pretty hilarious too, though. You got to love that. I mean, his last reception, by the way, came with the Titans in 2024. He caught 17 passes for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns that year. So be serviceable. Don't make the Rams play out of their game plan, and that's the most popular thing. Now, as far as the most up-to-date injury report, Sean McVay said that he expects Ahkello Witherspoon to play, expects Tutu Atwell to play after getting a full week of practice. The other starters who were non-participate, Byron Young, he missed practice with a knee injury, but McVay expects him to play. Cameron Kinchins also sat out Wednesday with a shoulder injury. His status is still worth monitoring throughout the week. Xavier Smith was a full participant as he recovers from a concussion he suffered in Week 11. And Konate Mumfield, he was limited with a calf injury. So that'll be interesting with Tutu coming back. What does that mean for his availability? Do you just kind of give him the week off, or as far as just snap count-wise, have a limited action, see what Tutu can do? As far as the Panthers go, the big one is J.C. Horn. That's their best cornerback. He was terrorizing Purdy with the interceptions during their Monday Night Football matchup. He was a non-participant due to concussion, and he is up in the air if he's going to play. Christian Roseboom, he missed practice with a hip and a hamstring injury too, so maybe he won't be able to go. The Panthers, they held a walkthrough on Wednesday, but today, you're probably going to see them ramp up, so we're going to have a better idea about J.C. Horn today and if he's going to be able to go. Either way, the Rams, they need to stomp the Carolina Panthers. We did a full preview a couple days ago, so definitely go back and watch that. And we're going to probably drop a key matchups episode, and we'll be here after the show as well. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. We're thankful for all the Rams fans and the Ramley out there rocking with us all year, 24/7, 365. My name is Doug McCain. Follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams House.